and welcome back to iPrep for Intro to Epidemiology. In the first series of videos, we reviewed fractions, decimals, and percentages. Part 2 will now introduce 2x2 tables, how we use them in Epi, and how to perform calculations with them. This first of 5 videos will cover some important definitions. Here are a few key definitions that may be familiar to you from other public health courses. You will also see many of these again in Part 3 when we focus on study designs. The first one is risk. Risk is the probability that an individual will get a certain health outcome. As we learned in Part 1, probability can be expressed as a fraction or a decimal. Exposure refers to a behavior or characteristic that can influence the risk of getting a disease or other outcome. An outcome is the health event you are interested in studying, such as a disease, injury, or specific symptom. Finally, an association is simply another name for a relationship between an exposure and outcome. When doing research, an association must first be made between the other two before we can reach conclusions about a causal relationship. Here are a couple more definitions you will find relevant when it comes to 2x2 tables. In research, it is often not possible to gather data from an entire population you are trying to study, so this is when sampling comes in. Researchers try to select a sample group that will be as representative of the entire population as possible. We will learn more about sample selection when we get into study designs, but for now it is important to know that a sample is simply a portion of the entire population of interest. Our sample population is then further broken down into cases and controls. A case is an individual that has the health outcome you're interested in studying, while the control does not have that outcome. This illustration is just showing us how cases and controls are further divided based on past exposures in this specific study design. This is a figure you're probably familiar with seeing by now. As a general review, incidence is the proportion or rate of people who develop a condition during a particular time period. It is easiest to think of incidence as new cases dripping into our bathtub at a given rate. Prevalence is the proportion of people who have a condition at a particular time period, so the total pool of cases already in the tub. And this illustration also shows the two ways out of the prevalence pool, either via recovery or, unfortunately, death. So in this intro, we discussed some definitions that will provide some background for using 2x2 tables in epidemiology. Among these were exposure and outcome, populations versus samples, cases and controls, and incidence versus prevalence. Please continue to video number 2 to begin using 2x2 tables. Thank you.